Hey, what's up, folks? Brock is going to be doing some airbrushing, and I'm setting up because I always have to set up my workbench, aka the kitchen table. Let me see how the picture looks before I get going. And I'm hoping I set this to public. If not, nobody's going to be here. Let me see how this looks. So there's a pretty significant delay. Skybite, what's up? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up these blue parts that I've already painted. I should turn off my air compressor with this thing called Vallejo masking fluid. It acts as a barrier, and as you can see, it's just like a green liquid. And you want to use a pretty beat up or a brush that you don't care for. I've used this one before to apply because what happens is it'll gum it up. Let's see here in a second. Let me make sure I'm wow, there's a really bad delay. How's the video quality? Momo, what's up? Probably should have just used a completely brand new brush, but every time I use this thing, it ruins the brush. So the reason it's, I just need to cover that whole part right here, and then I'm gonna let it dry, and I'm gonna move on to all the other bits. So if you've been following this project, I've been working on it probably a month now. I feel like I've been going. I mean, I take breaks when I don't feel like doing it. I just don't do it. That's one of the benefits of doing my own customs and not taking commissions. So instead of using this masking fluid, I could have just taped it up. Tape, I think, would take me, I don't know. This stuff actually pretty well. It's not. It's stiff. From last time I used it, I can't tell if those blue parts right there are there because I streaked it or because I just didn't cover it. So just to make sure, I'll interact with the chat in a second. I can see people are starting to hop in, but where I set up my iPad is not the best place. I probably should have set it off to my right instead of to my left. Substance, if you guys haven't used it before, the heavier I apply it, the easier it is to get off at the end. If I apply it too thinly, then it won't lift, and then it's a pain in the butt to get it to come off. Oops. I think the person I saw using this first was Craig Warwick. I didn't even know it existed, and I'm pretty sure different companies make something like this, but this one is just made from Vallejo, and I can't remember where I bought it. I think I may have either gotten it on eBay or Amazon. I'm just trying to get it off the part that I actually want to paint because it will cover. I'm not sure if I'm even on camera right now. You have to excuse me if I'm off. Let's see who's up in here. What's up, Ryan? El Enmascarado. What is up? Skybite, Tron Arts. What's up, dude dog? And Roberto Rojas. All 10 of you. Thanks for. I'm gonna tape up the legs. I don't want to. That would be way too much of this stuff to put on. I'm using this overhead thing that my daughter got me for Christmas, which is cool because it room to work, because I used to have the camera in front of me when I used to go these live shots. This thing is not easy to apply. Just it starts doing what it's supposed to. It starts becoming like a latex. And I can't really wash it off. I've tried lacquer. I've tried all sorts of stuff to get this substance off the brush, but it's just too difficult to get it to come off. And like I mentioned before, I've found that when I apply it too thinly, it's really difficult to get it to come off the brush, or to get it to come off the parts, especially if it's like a highly detailed. It's all jacked up right here. I should probably have a toothpick around here, but I have no idea where I put it. And the brush just won't flex right now because it's hardened with the substance from the previous use. But I just hate having to waste every single time a new. See how I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but if I don't keep it on the wet side, it starts becoming that latex, and it'll actually pull up the rest of the stuff in unison, and then I will lose all the coverage that I had painted on here. I haven't researched it, so if you guys have experience using this and you found a way to apply it that doesn't, see, I just have way too much on the brush, but see, that's exactly what happens. I don't know if you saw that string piece coming off. But it does its job. Once it dries, I can paint right over this without fear that it's actually going to go into the blue that I've already painted. This is all. You know what? I think I'll just touch it up. You know, the other one that I already did, this is the second Sentinel that I'm working on right here. When I was doing it on my own, it was fine. Now all of a sudden I'm videotaping it, recording it so that you guys can see it, and it's all of a sudden become difficult for me to get the little parts that I want to. So let me see if you guys can see that. It's become rubberized almost. Ugh, son of a gun. See? So now that part I need to redo. See, that's... What's up, Eric? Sure that part's covered. I can't. Now when it starts drying, these are the thinner spots. I think that's already covered, but I'm scared. For those of you that are just joining right now, this is called, it's a masking fluid from Vallejo, the company Vallejo, or Vallejo, as some of you guys will pronounce it. And it's just to protect this paint from the next paint that I'm already putting on. For those of you that have been following the Sentinel project, you know, I dyed the figure, opened it up and then dyed the parts after I took some of the paint off. It was just actually more for practice than for anything else as far as the dye job goes. And then after that, I primered the entire figure black, and I used a gloss black because I wanted the majority of this figure to, well, the figure is going to look metallic because I'm going to be using metallic paint, and it's always a good idea when you're painting metallic. I should probably be using a different brush, but when you're painting metallic, you want a base of a gloss black. It just makes the metallic pop. And if you want to see what some of the end results look like, go to my Instagram. I've done a few videos just showing what these metallic paints from TurboDork look like, and I think they look pretty darn good. That's not the only way to paint metals, but if you're actually going to use a paint that's described as metallic, you want to paint that gloss black. Otherwise, you could go like a silver or a chrome. It could have different colors. I just put my finger on that, so I have to cover that. And then after you've laid down a chrome or a silver, you can go over it with a clear paint, and that also gives a metallic look, but it's just a different look altogether. And you just have to test it out and see what you like best. So after I'm done with this piece, I have the two legs to tape up. And then I'll begin airbrushing this. I'll probably be on for about an hour today on recording anyway. So this is the hard part. And like I said, I'm trying to lay it on thick because it's just easier to remove afterwards. If I lay it on too thinly, it'll be just nearly impossible to pull up. So I think that should do it for this masking stuff. And then I'll show you, watch, I'll leave it like that on the brush, and then I'll pull it off in a second so you guys can see what's going on. Now let's tape up the legs. But let me interact with who's up in here. What's up, Southtown Paint Apps? Roger 129, what is up? I just picked up Doom and Superior Octopus for right now. So Eric's used something called Micro Mask from that incorporated place. What's up, Fet Nerd? Yeah, that's what Weapon X is doing to his Sentinel. I kind of like it with the shoulder pads. And here I thought I was done, but look what I still have to do. Darn it, I forgot the hands. So much for the legs. So let me see, is this hardened up yet? So that was still somewhat liquidy. But I don't know if you can see that. I don't think there's enough light yet, but it's just like a rubber. And once it gets inside the bristles, it just stiffens up the brush, and this thing's pretty much Dundee. Fat Nerd, you just got to give it a chance, bro. You got to give it a chance. Let's see what the paint job does. I'm really happy. Like I was saying before, this is the second one. The process. Look at that right there. You see that? You should be able to see that. Look at that. Let me just take that out of the way. Don't want none of that. Let's see how what the paint job does, and that may change your mind how it looks. But I don't get me wrong, I like the look without the shoulder pads. I just don't think that the way that this Sentinel is built lends itself to look super great with that exposed. It's not the way the ball looks there. I don't know. So I made the decision after a few pulls. I think I did a couple pulls because I wasn't convinced. But who knows? I may change my mind. I can always remove it at the end. I can cut them off. It'd be very easy to cut it off. I'd like for Weapon X to finish his Sentinel, one of his gajillion Sentinels that he has, and I like the look of it because he did take off those shoulder pads. And maybe if he finished his before I finished all of these, and actually I just traded for a third one, so I'm going to be doing a third one when I get it, and it's going to be a little bit easier than what I did because I started with the silver ones. So the next one that's coming up, all I'm really going to have to do, I'm not even going to prep those joints. All I'm going to have to do with that one is just to primer the figure black, gloss black. So I'll have a third one that I'll be working on here soon whenever I get it. And I need to put some serious work on these. I think I'm going to finish these two, and then on the third one, I'm just going to do that one by itself. But because this has been quite the job over here, and I have the workbench, kitchen table all to myself, and there's other people that live here, and other people that use the kitchen table for school projects and stuff like that. That they've had to take a back seat on this one so far for quite a while. Like I said, I've had this table more occupied than I usually do because what you guys don't see right now is the hold on a second, let me make sure I'm getting the right parts. See, that's one of the hands painted. Let me see. It's the I wonder if I just didn't paint the blue there. Son of a biscuit. be darker. So anyways, I gotta finish this up first. Quite got that. Oh. So what happens with this stuff once it starts hardening, if as soon as it starts hardening up, and then the brush is not, the fluid on the brush is not wet, then it starts, see, it starts pulling it up. All right. I think that's all covered, but I don't know. Biscuit chips. Making quite the mess off camera here. So Weapon XS used lacquer thinner. I have, and it didn't work. And as soon as you use it, because I know you like to try things out, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Lacquer thinner did absolutely nothing to this. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just the substance here doesn't do anything to it. I wish I knew, Roger. If I knew which brush that was, I would trust me. I would have bought it. I just don't know. Maybe a synthetic brush. I haven't tried a synthetic brush, unless one of these guys. Maybe I'm using a synthetic brush and I don't know. Maybe all these are synthetic. I think the brushes I'm using, my friend Matt Stetson sent them to me. I think these guys right here. He sometimes pops in the chat. But if you guys can just think about this, if you guys are gonna go and ask for a commission, and I know I'm doing this on camera, and it does take a little bit longer when I'm filming. I usually move a little bit quicker than this, but just in doing this alone, look how long it's already been. Just all I'm doing is masking parts for paint. Bottom part's not going to matter so much, but I have a pretty decent control of the airbrush, so I wouldn't really need to mask down here, but better be safe than sorry, because then if the purple gets on here, then I'm going to have to do double the work. Except one of the things that I've done, once I painted this metallic blue, I went, after it had dried for, I think I probably let it dry for 24 hours. Then I applied a gloss varnish over it, a Vallejo product also. And what that gloss varnish does is it gives it a layer of protection. Whereas if there's when I make a mistake and it's, you know, only a matter of time about making a mistake, then you can just kind of brush it off. But this is, I'm just being extra special here. And a lot of times it's just preferable to go the extra mile, even though it may not be necessary. It makes it worth it in the long run. Okay, that should do it. Now I don't know. See how that part right there is all, well, I think that should be protected. It's just drying, but because I can't be sure. Yeah, it was. But now it's going to get an extra. And I don't know if you saw that on camera. Some of it was dried on my brush and it pulled off what was on the hand. All right, and then I get distracted when I'm doing this because it's hard to actually concentrate and talk at the same time. And I'm just talking to, because I'm not really answering questions and stuff on the chat, so I'm just talking to hopefully keep you guys somewhat entertained and make this educational for those of you that haven't customed at all and are interested. But you can see how long the process is, and there's multiple processes involved in a custom action figure. I'm just trying to take all this, see all the gunky stuff. So when you go and commission a custom and they come back with a price that's way higher than you could ever imagine paying for a custom, then you go, well, I know how much time it takes just by, you know, watching some of these videos. All right, tape. So the goal here is just to tape off the blue part here, and I have done a gloss coat because what I found is if I didn't have a layer of protection, sometimes even blue painter's tape can pull off paint. And there's not necessarily a right way to do this. It's just whatever works for you. You just got to make sure that the parts that you want covered are covered. And like I said, I'm fairly accurate if my airbrush is working fine, but sometimes when you're painting with acrylic paints, the paint dries really quickly on the tip of the airbrush, and sometimes it'll just shoot out stuff. I think last time I may have put some of that, some stuff on the legs. This one should be a little bit quicker than the last. So if I better protect back here. I'm gonna do this off camera. It's just taping. I'm just covering the painted parts. And this is just blue painter's tape that you can find at pretty much any hardware store. Should I be good with that? I don't think I need to tape all the way down there. Spastics Mirror Chrome, Eric. I've used it. I've actually used it on the figure. I did the my Silver Surfer with that. But are you sure it's the? Is that what you're talking about, or maybe you were answering somebody else? Because I can't use it on this because then it'll be silver or chromey. I like Spastics. It's not an acrylic. I actually used it on that, and I repainted Black Manta, the DCUC release, and the result's really nice. However, Spastics Mirror Chrome didn't completely cure for me. Meaning that once I was done with the paint job, it was sticky. Now, that could have been, user error that I didn't prep the figure right. I didn't let the primer cure long enough, and I started painting too quickly. That could have been a possibility. But sometimes some of these, because Spastics Mirror Chrome is not, I don't think it can be considered an acrylic paint. If I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on it, but it definitely did not react like an acrylic paint. Nothing like I've ever used before. The result, like I said, beautiful, but the paint just didn't cure, and I left it out for ages. And I also used it, actually I've used it 3 different times. I used it on a repaint of the first appearance Iron Man Toy Biz figure. I ended up getting one from a beat up one in a trade, and I fixed it and I repainted it, and that thing still hasn't cured. It's still sticky. So it could be that it's reacting to some of the, I don't know, the molding agents used in the newer products, because some of them will put in this, I forget the name of it, but it's a substance that helps prevent the brittling of the plastic. So I don't know. It could be, like I said, it could be user error. Beautiful result, but you can't touch the paint because it's super sticky. All right, so I think this is good. Let me leave it like that. And since I covered this, might as well cover this one. That's just safer than sorry. So the Mirror Chrome is a 3-step. Yeah, it's the black gloss. And I didn't see a sealer from them, actually, a gloss sealer, and maybe that could be the problem. I'm trying to remember, I used Future Floor Shine on one. Then I used, I can't remember the other stuff I used, but I remember using Future Floor Polish on it. All right, I think we're ready to start airbrushing, peeps. This is somewhat of the fun part, and we're 35 minutes in. I think that's really funny. Let's start with the legs, and we'll let that dry out a little bit more. All right, let me interact with the chat real quick. Make sure I didn't miss. I'm sure I've missed a bunch of stuff. Fat Nerd, I do like the cartoon look. I prefer the cartoon look. I just think if I take off those shoulder pads, the way that the shoulder looks, this thing right here, and because I had to Dremel in here for paint rub, there's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I quite like that. But like I said, need my buddy Ryan to finish his Sentinel, and then I may lop off those shoulders. That's easy peasy. WeaponX is not taking commissions. He's on the chat. You can ask him. Maybe he's not. I think not for right now anyway. What's up, Venom Fang? It is the Sentinel. And by the way, guys, one of the things that I found, acrylics are typically not very toxic, but these Turbo Dork paints, they're metals. And I'm not sure if it's because it has flakes inside, but I highly recommend that you put this mask on or a breathing apparatus, something, because the last time I did it, I got this sore throat. And I've read somewhere else that people were getting sore throats from painting on here. I think it was one of the guys that was reviewing the paints. So if you guys go review Turbo Dork paints, you'll run into, I'm sure, the same one that I watched. And what happened with me was I got sick afterwards, but I had a bad cold. So I don't know if I can attribute the. It was just coincidentally that I was spray painting or airbrushing, I should say, and then all of a sudden I had a sore throat. All right. So if you've never airbrushed before, it's always a good idea to thin your paints. I like to use Airbrush Floor Improver from Vallejo. There's also, I've used testers and you name it. Companies make acrylic thinners. This is water in here because this finished. The acrylic thinners have alcohol in them, and alcohol obviously dries. So more experienced people than me have suggested not to use acrylic thinner, but to use this flow improver, which is a completely different type of, it's got different, can we call them chemicals? I don't know what the heck we call them, properties or whatever. And this mixed with a little bit of water and the paints should thin out the paints. Now, saying all that, I tested this. I had to clean it out. I had some cloggage from the previous paint job. I guess I didn't do a good enough job, and that just comes with the territory, learning how the airbrush works. So I'm gonna just give it a quick test, see if it's still spraying normally. And then I like to set my PSI on, that's, I think that's pounds per square inch of pressure to 20 or a little bit below, 18 to 20 PSI when I airbrush. So you should be able to hear it and then maybe see it. Let me see if let me see if it's on camera. There's just such a long delay. It's such a long delay, I can't tell if it's on camera or not. Now, saying all that, it's such a huge delay. Can you, Let me just, yeah, so now that I'm testing it, nothing's coming out. So that means it's still somewhat clogged. Not somewhat clogged, it is clogged. And that's just from the paint. There we go. So now maybe we should be able to see that. So you should see the water coming out of the airbrush. But I can't see if it's on screen or not. I hate when it's such a delay. Can you guys tell me if it's still clear on your end? Can you guys type? Because I don't want to start if you guys can't actually see. All right, so it's still pretty clear. Man, there's like a 10-second delay from my end. Awful. Oh, well, let's just get going. Let me put my mask on. So what I'm doing for the purple, I'm using Red Rum and People Eater from Turbo Dork, and I'm doing a 1-to-1 ratio. Man, it's a crazy delay. What if I got out of this? ratio. Always shake your paints. 5. Add a little bit of water. And then I'm going to use an old brush to stir it up in the cup. And then I'm going to do a backflow technique. Essentially, you just plug up the front of your airbrush, and then you let some air. And then I don't know if you that just mixes it further on the cup. And then what I like to do is I pull the needle out, and then I give it a strong spray. You're not going to be able to see this. Then put the needle back in. Then I'm testing it on the paper right here, and it doesn't, it's still kind of clogged, darn it. You can tell that you guys can't. And now it's a big delay. You just saw my hand in you just saw my hand in the frame. That was really funny. All right, you probably can't hear me, but the idea is to paint light layers. So you guys probably can't see it on camera, but I can. Let me see if there's a way. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can adjust this so you guys can see it better. So the idea, like I was saying, is to build up thin layers, and you'll see by the probably like by the third pass, you'll start seeing the buildup of the paint. Right now, it's not so much. Let's just do that. That's just getting my hand. That doesn't. The next round, I'm going to try to adjust the camera. That's really funny. I think I just have to, since I'm right-handed, I need to change the angle. And by the way, just the technique here, I'm barely moving my arm. It's just my wrist. This is kind of like the part that people wanted to see, and my hand's covering it. All right, I'll stop. Yeah, sorry about that angle, guys. That's pretty brutal. I think it's funny. All right, I'm gonna adjust the angle so if you get motion sick, I'd turn away right now. So I'm gonna try to put it on the other side because all I can see was my hand. You see my workbench, aka the kitchen table. Look at a nice clean kitchen. My wife's a hard worker. Stand by. Oh, this thing. Until I've used this a lot. Oh. Alright, so hopefully, let's see when that settles. All right. I'm stirring up the paint because it sat a little bit, and what you guys weren't able to see that I saw, maybe you'd be able to see this. This is what you're supposed to. This is called backflow technique. You just cover the front, and then let me see. That's not. Oh gosh, hold on. Gosh, last time I went live, it covered it. Now it's not. Now it's in my face. Hold on, I gotta this because I'm sorry guys, because there's such a delay. I'm trying to get this on camera. All right. So now you should start seeing the colors start coming through. And so far so good. The tips staying pretty clean. I'm telling you, the mixture of this flow improver with the flow improver with the water is perfect. There just isn't a good place to put this. Come on, girl. Stay put. All right, I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit and let it dry before I move on to the next layer. But what you guys are seeing, and I'm having some technical difficulties with where to place the camera here for you guys to actually see anything that would be useful to you. I think what I have to do is I have to back out. But anyway, take your time on this. And I'm actually painting very uncomfortably right now. You know, I'm having to reach, so I'm gonna try to do this again and try to catch a different angle because it's just not working for me. And I just realized I haven't done the hands. But what you want to do with this stuff is you want to build layers. And it's a very thin layer right now. So you want to, even in your first pass, if you don't think you've done much, you actually are because it's building on itself. So it's very light and I'm farther away because I'm wanting to get more coverage. This is the largest figure I've ever worked on, or these, and I'm tackling two of them at the same time. So I'm finding if I back out, you know, when the farther you're away, the spray is going, the pattern is just gonna boom, it's gonna spread out. So that's why I'm farther away. Now, as I get into the next layers, I'm gonna get closer in because I want more focus, I want more paint, and then you're gonna really see the buildup of this absolutely gorgeous paint from Turbodork, and it looks completely different because I'm doing two different paints that I don't think they have that color. So I've made it my own color. Let me show you what it looks like finished. So you can see the white. And now this has been sitting out. You can see the absolute wild difference in color right there. And the one on the left is eventually gonna gear any of the highlight there, but that's gonna get after a few layers, like maybe layers, it'll get to that deep color. Let me go put this one back. And I just realized I better put the Are you guys still there? I'm gonna get back at it again. I'm just trying to set it up so it's out of the way. Yeah, this is definitely not the ideal setup for this. Angle because this is definitely I said that this was going to go about an hour. I apologize for all the camera faux pas or whatever. And I think we're going to call it a night. And hey, check out my. But thanks for hanging out. I think I just need to, when I go live, it's been a long time since I've gone live a lot. So I'm out of practice and I still haven't found the best angle to do this comfortably because there I was reaching and my lower back was starting to suffer. But anyways, thanks for hanging out. And if you are into customs, and I believe that you are because you're still here, go check out This Week in Customs. That's starting back out, season 2 coming out with fire. Some amazing customs that I want to showcase for you. Join me this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next live session. All right, guys, have a good night.